Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Indiepocalypse Radio, where I am getting even better at recording than I ever have been, and that I just keep turning on the recording somehow. I need to double check what that hotkey is. Maybe it changed when I reformatted my computer, and it went to some default that I forgot about. But anyway, we are here with another edition, of course, of Indiepocalypse Radio. I'm your host, Andrew, the editor, etc. of Indiepocalypse, and Indiepocalypse being the monthly anthology of games, Indiepocalypse Radio being its adjacent show in which we talk to people who make games, often within the scope of Indiepocalypse, because those are whose emails I have and who know me, but also often outside of the scope of Indiepocalypse, as we have here with our first guest. Who you may know from making games on the internet for a very long time. Most recently, maybe Let's Snake, Ancient Greek Punishments, Pippin Bar. Pippin, how are you doing today?
Hey, how are you doing? I noticed you almost forgot your name in the intro there, which was
I've done it plenty of times.
familiar to me. I do that all the time too.
Yes, also podcaster, I guess. Not in
That's right.
Not in the traditional sense, I suppose, but in a more alternative sense of the way of doing it.
Yeah, well, David Walensky and I do a thing where we exchange voicemails and then call that a podcast. That's right. It's a great format. I highly recommend it. Maybe you should check it out.
Maybe. It seems easier to schedule in that you don't actually have to schedule it.
Yeah, some episodes can take many weeks to come together depending on what's going on in life.
So, now here's the question, because as you saw, I was thinking at the top, if you had if you said, "Oh, this is my thing," what is do you have a tentpole thing that you think of that you guys say, "Oh yeah, I made this," or does that not exist?
That's a great question. I feel like it's a hurtful question at the moment because I like one of the big things that I do is I'm actually a professor at a university in Montreal, Concordia University, and I got this job a long time ago. This started in 2016, but it was one of the moments where I started to feel like I was drifting away from just being a person who makes video games. Like that was my identity then, and I think it's still my ghost identity now, but the secret is that I end up having to do so much other stuff that I'm no longer sure what my tent pole is, or maybe more charitably, like I have many tent poles.
Yes, yeah.
I had to pick just the one.
It's odder in like these sort of, I don't know, this old indie kind of like the indie space where I think you run into a lot of people who are lifelong, recognizable names, but you're like, what is the thing that they do? It's like, oh, the thing they do is they do a lot of things, a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, that's always been my favorite kind of person making stuff. I think of like, I also want to say increpare because
that's I was 100% looking up. I'm like, do I remember the letters? I am on increpare.com as we speak.
Oh, you are?
To remember, I was like, was there an extra R in there that I forgot? And I did forget that R was there.
It's a big touchstone. But yeah, like I'm a huge fan of the make tons of stuff. It's good advice when you're learning, and then it's just kind of good advice forever as well. So
right.
Yeah, I've always made small stuff and lots of it. At least in the past. Now it's sort of small stuff occasionally. Yeah,
but there is the beauty and the curse of small stuff is that it can be better than big stuff, or more broadly, art has nothing to do with how much money and time you spend on it.
Certainly at the idea level, that's super true. At the sort of like quality experience level, maybe maybe not, but
maybe, but you never know. How many $300 million projects end up being abject failures or just uninteresting?
That's true. Yeah, I was reminded of the beauty of small things just recently. I was playing a game called I think it's called Some Goodbyes We Made, and I can't remember the developers right now, but they perfectly demonstrated this idea that small things can be these really magical experiences. It was all there's a series of mini games about saying goodbye in different ways, and they really, really nail some of the emotional aspects of what a goodbye is and how it feels with tiny, tiny little like game design sort of tricks or inversions or whatever. It really landed extremely well and is tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, that is Safe Flight Games, and it is credited as Safe Flight Games and friend of the show, friend of the past contributor Joey Schutz.
Okay.
Are listed excellent. as the creators. And I'm trying to find their webpage, but they perhaps do not have a. Wow. Oh, there's a webpage. Found it. Found a webpage. Oh, there.
This is good. This is a show where you can hear web browsing happening live.
Yes. They're out of Taiwan, and then Joey's out of New York.
Yeah, no, it's a really lovely piece of work. But like I say, yeah, the smallness of it really works in its favor because it is trying to distill down these very transitory moments in time, and small works really well there. Yeah,
because you don't want to just sort of. I've been playing a lot of games, larger games in smaller quantities recently, and I often find compulsions, and rather than play endless games like competitive games or MMO style stuff, which I often fall into, I fell into using retro achievements, and a lot of times by the time I get their challenge, I go, I've had enough of this. I don't know if there is anything else in this game for me. And
no, I think that's probably everyone who's not a teenager and younger ends up having that feeling. I think a lot about all games is you kind of feel like you get it at a certain point with a lot of the big games, and unless you really, really want more of it, which sometimes you do, and that's really cool. But a lot of the time, you just feel like you want to get something else.
I'm a huge fan. If you put my guys on one side of the screen and the other guys on another side, and we take turns hitting each other, oh, buddy, sign me up. I'll be there forever.
You play a lot of chess then.
Oh yes, very, very aggressive chess.
Yeah, fully physical battle chess from the old days.
Important to have RPG elements in the chess nowadays. Yes, it's nothing to do. Is from Chimera in the chat of it's nothing to playing something for too long as it's nothing to do. It's a weird way of saying it, but is the feeling you get. Oh, I did something for 3 hours, but I felt like I didn't do anything.
Yeah, there's a killing time element to it, but you can get that with anything as well.
Yeah,
it's not that's game's fault.
Right. It's just lying. I'll just watch. It's the why people can be oh yeah, I don't watch movies, but I'll watch 17 episodes of a TV show. It's just kind of small.
Fills that void that we all develop after childhood.
And the yearning for small, repetitive successes, I guess, of I did it. Or I didn't do it, and I must do it again. Good.
We miss exams.
Yeah, secretly we all want to be tested forever, but not by any kind of standard, but by our peers or our hopeful peers.
Yeah, it's very honest, I guess, in that way.
Yeah, and that's I think you get a lot of that in the independent space, or I guess the non-monetary space. The sort of ROM hacking, modding is a very pure version of that because they're inherently you can't turn around and sell your ROM hack of Mario.
Yeah, that's so true. And there's I only learned about this recently, so I'm not trying to sound cool, and it is not cool, but plunder core games are super interesting that way as well, right?
No, yeah, I'm increasing, right, yes. They can, listen, somebody might be technically selling plunder core games on their website, perhaps.
Or anything's possible.
Or in their anthologies, maybe, but...
The dark web.
The secret is, nobody's looking, as long as nobody looks at it, you're good.
Yeah, and people also kind of mostly people don't care. which is
No,
great.
no, really.
And,
Yeah, no.
and as it should. Yeah.
That's why when people say, "Oh, I kind of," because I've had plenty of Plunder Core
Mhm.
submitted to Indiepocalypse, and when people ask about that kind of thing, I'm kind of like, "Oh, well, I don't think Kotaku's never going to run an article on Indiepocalypse that busts us and makes Nintendo get mad at us or whatever." So,
No, and if they got mad, I mean, they're not gonna destroy you. They're just gonna be like, "Hey, could you not do that?" And
and
then
I
you can
go, "Oops, sorry,
politely tip your hat and yeah, exactly.
didn't mean to." Was that Mario? I didn't know that was Mario.
Nice. Yeah, I've never played any of your games before,
No,
so I didn't
I
know.
thought he just made it was a guy in a really fun red suit. But that it is kind of like, I mean, in a way, you've got a very early Plunder Core on your own. Oh, like I would say website it is website, but your own. What is a filmography, discography, videography? What do you call that for games?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
It,
there are obvious answers, but yeah.
yeah, I don't know what it is, but Combat at the Movies is arguably
Oh,
uh,
that's true. That's a ripoff.
it
Yeah.
is it is
It was very in the spirit of what happened at the time as well, where yeah, Atari and everybody else were just like ripping each other off and making the same game.
yeah.
Yes, just totally shameless back then in kind of a fun way.
Right, and it is shameless now, also in some kind of way. Like it still happens, but like in a different sort of
Mm.
context. You know,
Mm.
how many cozy farming things where you sell trinkets to birds, or like
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
deck.
and not even at the asset flip level, but just like yeah, conceptually, so many games are. There's just like one game that
Right.
everybody's making.
I have. I'm making my deck building roguelike, and you better believe the UI looks just like Slay the Spires does.
Hmm. Yeah, but that's not unlike social media
No,
nowadays as
no.
well. Like viral videos are roughly the same as well,
Right,
where
it
they hit the
is.
spot.
We're all sitting in the corner of our videos pointing at something and with our mouths agape and going, "Oh my god, can you believe I threw 50 sandwiches at this train and you will never believe the results." Uh, Here is also, did you buy my merch and sweatshirts yet? You need
Link
to
below.
get into the gear space.
Mm. Yeah, the merch. That probably is where the money is, just like for bands as well, for the sort of the zero money developers. It's the merch thing. Like I would like to buy. I've been thinking about this lately. I would totally buy more video game stuff
Yeah.
if it with the extremely important proviso that it'd be kind of interesting and cool. But
Right.
the I'm going to get the names wrong, but the creator of Crypt Underworld had released some. I mean, released is too strong a word, but they had a shop with like clothes that had just like very bad textures from the game
Yeah.
plastered on them.
Yeah, Lilith Zone.
Clothes and like it's yeah, there you go, Lilith. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I think it's a lot of praise in day-to-day life. It's so weird.
Yeah, because that's also like Lilith Zone's a very good example of like the curse of the the perennial like revered indie developer who has no money. um,
Yes, exactly, right?
because
Yeah, that's that. I mean,
they just had a
insane.
thing recently with like Crip World's Gold of like, oh, we need money. um,
Yeah,
and that is that
yeah. That might have been right around when I bought this sweater as well. But
right.
it's like I think that is a quite a great like there is crowdfunding and stuff, but I think that merch is an oddly great way to funnel people to be able to really easily give you money. Except of course that I'm assuming the cut taken by the manufacturer and stuff is
Right, but it is like a thing with like zero overhead.
yeah, it's just
Oh,
a texture you already had.
honestly, this T-shirt is very good. Like this
It's
kind of
great.
this
Oh my
like
God, it's
this
fantastic.
all over print T-shirt is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
I
it's quite stunning.
I
Yeah, and it's
have
reflective of those games and kind of the ethos there, so that's why I like it so much.
yeah no there's I own zero. I am I'm gonna be raked over the coals, but I own zero gamer merch because I just think it's all very ugly, and I don't think I would probably own any of it anyway. But
Yeah, I flirted often with getting the jacket from Disco Elysium as well, but that is very expensive, so I am yet to
yeah,
pull the trigger.
right. You need something more practical. This feels more in line with like shirts I would buy from punk bands, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's totally the band thing. Like I like thinking about it that way. Although it's like a solution to the problem of great bands also having no money and barely
Yes, right.
surviving. Bit of a band-aid, but still something.
Yeah, that's the kind of problem with just like indie art in general. When I was perusing, I often go through everyone's stuff before I go there. I don't know I had a fun bit of exercise that I see often when I go through games for Indiepocalypse, like especially older games. And I was on one of which one was it? Oh, I was Let's Play The Shining, and of the press coverage you have listed, I think like four of the sites are defunct. Most of the links are dead. And like I think there's like 3 of like 12 links maybe that are like still active blurbs where you could read about the game, and I think
that's brutal. And sometimes it's a website reorganization, but
yeah, it is. Yeah,
the death of the website happens a bunch too. That's sad. Yeah, I always think I should back that stuff up. I'm like being a professor now. Like I really should back that stuff up because it's forms the backbone of my CV sometimes.
Right, and there is a lot of like in the early like indie times when indie kind of meant a study when it was more in line with like this sort of like freeware experimental space. I wonder how many of those old articles are like the s.exes are still up,
right?
Or are they just like lost to the ether at this point?
I'm guessing it's the second one, unfortunately. Yeah, there's
right.
Like a ton of great writing as well, and like sometimes the only memory of a game, depending on what kind of platform it was running on, like Flash especially.
Yeah, right. Which is also a whole other problem. Oh, these games. I mean, there are emulators, and Newgrounds has done a lot to be like, oh, this is our whole platform. We need to find a way to make sure this all still works.
Ruffle is getting better and better. I've noticed. I was able to I was able to run Trolley Problem in Ruffle recently, which was good to see. So I'm slowly taking stuff on there.
Yeah, and there is like, because that's a whole other like. Preservation is an internal problem of games, in that it happens very infrequently.
Yeah, it doesn't seem important at the time, and then it seems like a tragedy shortly afterwards.
Right, or their solution is like remakes,
Yeah, Silent Hill 2000.
Right. Instead of like where is the mass market like trade paperback version? But for video games.
Oh, yeah, like the reprint. That'd be a funny model.
I was just like, oh no, we just like reprinted this, or I hate to give too much credit, but I often think maybe Ouya was right in some ways. Maybe we do need a box. We just do need like an agnostic box that just runs emulators or whatever. So let's just like not even pretend of like, oh, this game is out of print forever. It's like, oh, well, why doesn't people just sell it and it just runs on your emulator box? And
no, I mean it's true. We have a librarian at our university actually who was exactly interested in that kind of thing, like the archival aspects of video games and how to make it just accessible, because like if you're determined, you can get most things running, but most people are not determined and may not be able to. Everything's on Steam now.
Absolutely, because I think about, I saw someone online say something effectively like yes, all games are available online easily on the Internet Archive, but like how many people after a long day of work just do not have the patience to figure out like an emulator?
They can be finicky
and just like have to think about downloading something, or like they have to know that the Internet Archive is there and the easiest way to get stuff, or if they go to like weird emulation sites and it's like 80 pop-ups and they're like, I don't feel like dealing with this, I'm just gonna fire up Game Pass and play whatever's there.
Yeah, exactly. I had that experience recently. I was trying to play My House, the Doom Mod, like a famous Doom mod. Seemed
Yeah.
to be very creepy, inspired by House of Leaves kind of stuff. And I downloaded it and I played it for ages and it was like pretty intensely boring. And then I talked to, it was David actually, David Walensky, who I do the Game Thing podcast with. And like apparently I just had the wrong file and
Ah.
there's another file that does stuff and the file I had. But like, why was I able to get the wrong file? Stuff like that
Right.
is happening all the time.
Right. There's you actually have, oh, I did it wrong, or I am playing this in the wrong emulator, and it just like
Yeah.
breaks weird. I was playing Spirit Tracks, and the emulator I was using just like could not register, like, because that game uses a lot of like, it's all DS stuff, so it uses like the microphone a lot because you have like a pan flute as your instrument. I just like could not get it to work properly. And
That's
then
sad. That makes me sad because that sounds awesome. I've never played that game.
it's fine. It's neat. Like, Zelda's games are kind of neat most of the time. They're like the
But wait, do
weirdness.
you use an actual pan flute to play the game? That's my understanding right now.
Yes. No. There's a pan flute that I'm unfortunate to tell you that a pan flute only shows up occasionally to play
Oh.
songs.
But you don't hold the pan flute up to the DS microphone and play the pan flute to control something in the
Uh,
game.
You could if you wanted to. If you
Oh,
re-
okay. Oh, that's kind of cool.
if you really wanted, if you had a pan flute handy, and you held it up to the DS microphone, you could both hold your pan flute and the DS like two-handed style. You could use the
Yeah.
pan flute to activate the DS microphone. And that would, in theory, work. But
That sounds amazing.
Unfortunately, through the emulator, it did not.
No pan flute action.
No pan flute action. I was like, I bid farewell to those Spirit Tracks, and I went on and played something else. I don't remember what it was. But oh, if you believe it, Pim, we're actually approaching the end of our 20-minute segment here.
Well, that's shocking. We
It
haven't
bre-
really managed to talk about anything.
No, that I don't think I set up on the top of the show, but I think I described this as a post. It's somewhere between an interview and a post-con hangout. So
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
there's
Sure
not.
about nothing.
I'm not here with a bunch of hard-hitting questions like, Pippin, we
You
mentioned.
asked me that tentpole question. That, like I said, that hurt my feelings at the time, so that was a good one.
Perfect. I come here with the gotchas to hurt people's feelings. And I said that.
Premise for an interview show, yeah.
I say that, I say no tempo lovingly, of course. I don't mean it as a. It's like, it's like I did talk about it. It's like there are people who I go, well, what is their like thing they're known for? And sometimes I don't know because I'm like, oh, they're just like a very well known developer who makes a lot of cool stuff.
Made a bunch of stuff. I had the main thing that, to return to tentpoles, the thing, and this is not the tentpole I want, but everybody who I've ever run into who tells me they know something I made tells me it was The Artist is Present, which I made in 2011. That always vaguely hurts my feelings. I'm like, dude, I made a lot of stuff since then.
Right.
But it was a good game, so I don't hate that.
Yeah.
Still does it.
Let me see. We'll see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 links on this. How many of them do you think are still alive?
For The Artist is Present?
For The Artist is Present.
Oh, I'm going to go... That was a long time ago. Let's say 2.
Let's see. Indie games, no
So
longer.
we're doing this live? Great.
Yes, we're doing this live because I did not... Actually, a good percentage.
Oh, yeah?
yeah.
It's got some very healthy, like, more popular media coverage, that one. So maybe it wasn't
Yeah.
just fly-by-night game sites.
We got 5 on there.
Oh, well, there you go. I was far too pessimistic.
Yeah, that's a good percentage.
That's a coin flip right there.
Right. Hey, look, my work is still archived. It's no longer just on my website, hoping that somebody will come across it. maybe.
This is a reminder that I gotta download all of that stuff because it's gonna be 0 out of 10 soon enough.
Yes, yes. That is like the unfortunateness of a lot of this. Um, just like, oh yeah, just websites no longer exist, or they just restructure things and links die, and maybe it's still on the website,
Yeah,
maybe it's not.
you can go and re-find it. I did that with Killscreen actually at one point because they restructured, um, and a bunch of my early coverage was from them. 'Cause they were such an amazing location back in the day.
Yes.
But yeah, then they restructured, but then I resurrected because all of the stuff was actually still there.
Yeah, and then they did the ultimate restructuring of shutting down the website.
There's that. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's that.
but that is like, so much of it is for games within the scope. It's kind of like the people who are covering the work are often having just as much trouble getting attention as the people whose work they're covering.
Yes. Very much so.
Uh,
It's pretty hard to be heard out there, and if you're being heard, it's hard to make a buck for doing it.
right. That's why through all the joys of independence, people go, oh, so many independent sites are still just writing about whatever big budget releases come out because I guess, unfortunately people have to get paid and that's what they want to keep doing. They don't want to.
Yeah, I don't even know how the economics of those sites actually works. Is it advertising?
I think to some degree, I think, a lot of them, and then I think people, especially with the independent ones, they work on some degree of probably just like subscription models or whatever.
Oh yeah, true.
Substacks.
Yeah, that's been coming back a little bit, right? With like 404 Media and like various other places. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable model to me.
Right. And it's also handy if like I don't think it's wrong if you're like, oh, this is just the one website I read,
Yeah, more and more. I mean, I read and subscribe to a website by Jason Kutke, which for exactly that reason. It's just like, yeah, I'm handing over to Jason the keys to my internet experience, and
Yeah.
I trust him, and I don't want to do it myself.
Right. You don't need to keep track of everything. Like,
No, I would rather not.
it's unsustainable. But I have
You seem like you're probably trying a little bit with a specific space of games, at least.
Yeah, no, I like building giant lists, and then frequently consulting those lists. Asking about my Bandcamp folder that's probably like 3,000 albums in it, or whatever.
I will ask you about that maybe off the air. But if you have do you have a music recommendation live on the air?
What are you looking for?
And I listened to almost anything. I listened to some ska yesterday, and it wasn't for me.
Okay.
I checked it out again. So apart from ska, maybe any other.
Oh, I see. Because I was ready to say like, oh, you can just go over to like a good thing is, but I purchased it and just threw it on. How do I? Where's the artist? The artist, Uvridio, I think is how you pronounce it. Uvridio. It's Yvridio. They're like a Greek like post-punk grunge sort of outfit.
All right.
I put them in there. I was into that. I got a lot of stuff. I like. I jam a lot of music in.
That's
But
the condition right there.
Before we get to that process of all this music, I have two questions for you. These sort of
okay.
The bog standard Indiepocalypse questions that I have to ask.
At the very end.
What's your favorite type of rock?
Talking like igneous, or are we talking like genres of music?
Your interpretation.
Oh, okay. My favorite rock. My favorite type of rock. Oh, I don't know. Thinking about. I mean, I like a geode.
Those are the ones where you crack open?
They're like, yeah, they got a lot of crystals on the inside.
Yeah, those
it's
are
like a metaphor.
high quality rocks.
Very expensive as well. Saw some pretty good ones at the Met when we went there semi recently. I know it's the Museum of Natural History in New York.
Yes. No, I've only been to the MoMI,
Yeah, I think that's called.
the Museum of Moving Image, because
Yeah, yeah. That's
they
a
used to
good
host
place.
Indiecade over
It's so
there.
close. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's a good spot.
Yeah, I liked it. It was nice when they held an Indiecade on the East Coast. Someone who's on the East
Yes.
Coast.
Was there only one? Maybe we were at the same one. I went to one of them.
It could have been. I was at that for a couple of years, but there was also that thing where my context has changed dramatically in the last 5 years of how people would know me.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. A lot has changed.
Rather than like just some random indie developer who's at a thing. It's like, oh no, I do a thing now. I have a thing I have now.
Yeah, you've got a tentpole right there. That's what you
Oh,
got.
I do have a tentpole. I've stolen the word Indiepocalypse from all the articles.
It's good. Yeah, it's being totally repurposed. It's nice.
I've captured the SEO after all these years. But speaking of SEO in indie space, Toho, Pippin, do you have a favorite Toho character?
I don't know what Toho is.
Oh, perfect then.
It makes me. Sorry.
No, that is an acceptable answer.
Oh, okay. But can you now explain to me?
Oh yeah,
Toho
Toho is a
what it
long-running
I don't know the word.
Dojin franchise created by Jun. I think the early games were back on the PC 98. They're primarily bullet hells.
Okay. Oh, okay. What's a title that I might recognize?
Just any of the Toho game. They're just called Toho, and then the title, and then the name of it afterwards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's like that's how important Toho is to the process. I don't think I've ever played one. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Oh yeah, there's tons of them. You might have seen it around because it also has this cool sort of like open license to it. Where if you wanted to make like even a commercial Toho game tomorrow, you could, with like very limited restrictions.
Toho.
TOUHOU.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff here. They don't sound like bullet hells, but they are.
Oh no, see, because some of them aren't. Some of them are like cafe sims. Some of them are Metroidvanias.
Okay.
Some are visual novels or kart racers, fighting games. It's part of that like because those are all games that the original Zune does not make.
Right. I'm gonna get into this clearly.
Yeah. I highly recommend people just at least like learn about it. It's like a very cool approach to like hey like share alike kind of stuff. It's like who cares?
Yeah.
This sort of like
and they're on Steam as well.
Yeah, exactly. They're commercial products made by full development teams.
Amazing. But they actually have a kind of a cool spirit behind them.
Yeah. It's kind of like if Nintendo just let everyone do whatever they wanted with the Mario crew.
Wow. Okay.
But
I'm gonna
like
find out about this. It
yes.
sounds like I have to read about the kind of cultural underpinnings first, and then play the games.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. It's one of those things where it's like it comes up as people either know it intimately or it's a blind spot, but it's also a very cool blind spot because it's like
That's a good one.
Yeah. It's ultra influential.
Okay. No, I'm gonna have to investigate and learn more about.
Well, Pippin, thank you for joining me here today.
It's pronounced Toho.
Toho. Yes,
I would be inclined to pronounce it.
I am bad at the.
I guess it's from Japan, right?
Yes.
So Toho. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I got it.
Yes, I am bad at the precise pronunciation of it, but I usually gets the point across. But anyway,
right. because Toho is also like TOHO.
Yeah, that's like a film studio.
Yeah, they did Godzilla and everything, right?
Yeah,
I guess that's a reference even potentially. Right, interesting. Okay.
Oh, I wonder why it's not. Somebody's having trouble. I think this must be some kind of blue sky thing. I got a comment that's like, "Oh, I can't get onto the page. It just loads forever of 404s. That's odd."
Oh.
It must be a weird blue sky thing.
Surely.
Anyway.
Just karma.
Every one of these friggin' websites has like a different like. Oh, got to make sure the URL is like this.
Yes.
Because like I typed it into myself and it just worked just fine. Yes,
Oh,
that's the one I pasted
yeah.
in there. And the thing I also just typed in indiepocalypse.com/radio into my address bar that also worked. But we're not going to live debug here. We're going to go to break. Pippin, thank you for joining me here.
That was a true pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We're going to go to break.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, no, this is the joys of doing the show. Saves me the time and the trouble of like getting people in the same space, which is often expensive and very usually high barriers of like, oh well, it's hard to justify going to an event if you don't get anyway.
It's a lot of pressure.
Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Desark with Don Taco and his hot sauce toss. We are here with. Well, let's get a little bit of business out of the way before we get to our next guest. Just in case our previous guest does have to leave earlier. Pippin, an important question for you. That if people are familiar with shows, usually this comes at the end. But just in case your end comes sooner. If people are looking for your work, where can they find it?
Oh, wow, I get to keep talking. This is amazing.
Yes, but only this. Then silence, utter silence.
Everything is at pippinbar.com.
Perfect.
PIPPINBARR.com, I think. Unless
yes.
It's not, in which case I'll put it there shortly.
No, everything's to my knowledge is there. I'm trusting that's there because that's why I pasted in the chat. Now, thank you.
I'll have the merch section open real soon.
Perfect. How many Greek myths will be featured on the?
I know, like an infinite number of T-shirts with boulders on them.
Yes, we did not even get into discussing your ongoing obsession, thoughts on Greek myths and their reinterpreting them, the modern myth within video game form. But that's time for
next time.
There's more time in the world for that because we have another guest here who you may know in the context of Indiepocalypse from Indiepocalypse number 58 with Harold's Walk. It's Luke Vincent. Luke, how are you doing today?
Yo, how's it going?
It's going good. So now now that someone's here, I get to ask my other stock Indiepocalypse question. That is sort of my erstwhile marketing question, which is, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
I don't know. I think maybe Brush Burial.
Okay.
Seems like the way I would have maybe heard about it.
Yes, Brush Burial was probably in like 2, 4, 5. I say like, oh, an issue right before yours, and then I look at it, and it's gonna be like 12 issues before yours.
Yeah, I don't know what issue it was, but I know Trish a little bit, so that's probably where I heard about Indiepocalypse.
Perfect. As long as the thing I look most forward to is not, I heard it online. As long as it spreads throughout people more often, very handy for the continuing. Because the only thing that really stops Indiepocalypse is people don't submit to it. It's very practically budgeted to run forever. But if people are unfamiliar with Harold's Walk, how would you describe it?
Well, it's a 3DS. It was originally a 3DS game, a 3D platformer, and I don't know how to describe it without spoiling what it is exactly, but it's basically just a 3D platformer. There's not much that's too crazy about it. You're just kind of going through strange and unusual spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's this is a problem. Sorry, go ahead.
You're just inferring what you think is going on based on what you see. There's very little text.
Yeah, no, that's a problem I frequently run into at events when people are like, "Oh, describe this game." I go, it's a game, and you do. It's like a lot of the games featured, often by designers, just like make more sense if you just play them.
Right, like if you describe a movie, it sounds shitty. Like,
Yeah.
boring.
Right. It's like, oh yeah, this is the stuff that happens. Like, well, they're more like experiential than that in a lot of ways.
Right.
And yeah, you're of among the last or of the last of the 3DS development crew.
I think there was at least one after me.
Right, but you were close to closing the doors. I think I was. I became aware of your work. I say, yeah, like just a few years, it was probably just years ago through Aqua Lounge.
Right. With Max.
Yeah, because I had met Max at some point pre Indiepocalypse, even just at a random event in Ohio that I was.
Oh, that's so cool. You met him like in person. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Max is super cool.
It just happened to be tabling next to him, I think, or near, or whatever. There was. And this was like pre me even, like I think there was like the percolations. I think I was asking people to submit, or I was pitching the idea around to developers at the time of like, hey, I'm thinking of starting this anthology thing. And it wasn't any kind of thing, but that is, but then, it's the sort of like the small world of it all of like, I would have never assumed like, that's also why I do like asking the question on the top, because I like learning about like, what are these connections between developers who I didn't know were connected,
Yeah. I kind of put you guys in the same category in my brain, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh, okay. It's a
Lounge and Indiepocalypse.
Yeah, I think they are. I feel hopeful for the sort of the indie space, like very broadly in terms of not moving away from, but like a space that is more carved out from what was the emerging like commercial indie space,
Right, exactly.
A
lot of the mainstream indie games I feel like are very not focused on self-expression. It's more like, let's make a roguelike, but even better this time, or I don't know, just some shit like that I just think is really boring.
Right.
I think it's better to have something that like involve the medium so that you can actually express yourself through it, like a book.
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of like the victim of just like scope increasing and teams increasing. So it's like, oh, if we want to make 2 games, we have to play it safe with our first game, and then if we have to make 3 games, we have to play it safe with our second game, and that kind of thing. And it kind of keeps spiraling on as like, oh, this needs to keep paying us. That's where the benefit of, kind of like I mentioned the first segment, of not making any money in the hobbyist space. You go, oh, I don't have to worry about any of that because I don't make any money.
Yeah, it makes you invincible. You could do whatever you want, say whatever you want.
Right. You're just like, oh, I know I will. I don't have to worry about getting into my wish list numbers. Of like, or like, what's a good vertical slice of my game?
Mm-hmm.
Is my game gifable enough?
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, I can't. That word gifable just gave me a total BC.
I think constantly about Melisantani said something to the effect of if the first Legend of Zelda came out nowadays, it would get a 7 out of 10, and all the community managers on Twitter would talk about how it wasn't gifable enough. And like,
it's really not. You're just walking up and down. I mean, that's every game at that time, I guess, but whatever.
Right, but our game's not all just ultimately walking up and down. Is life not just walking up and down?
Damn, yeah, walking to do dishes, walking to cook food.
Yeah.
So just do that over and over again. Do that 47,000 times till you die.
Right, and then we take that final walk straight to the grave and go. Of course, yes, thank you. Farewell to a silent farewell to our first guest as I head off. Goodbye, I say, instead of typing because it's easier for me to do that. I clicked on a little wave thing that doesn't do anything. It just clicks on it. But yeah, no. So
Like,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, as like a professor, is that pretty normal? Like, on Indiepocalypse, like, are people like in academia like that in here, or what?
I actually, when I was in, where was I? Fuck, where was it? Oh, it was Ohio. I was in like Columbus, I think. For GDEX, I had a game chair from Columbus, Ohio, or not Columbus, Ohio, Columbus University, or something. I forget the exact college.
Mm-hmm.
But they had come up and been like, "Oh yeah, no, I know exactly what this is. I want to buy little physical copies of your thing, and what if we can figure out how to display these and get these into like the school library and things like that." So I think
cool.
I do well. Like my best audience, quote unquote, is the other artists, I guess.
Yeah.
And other creatives. Like I did a interview yesterday, and the guy asked me like, "Oh, so who's your target audience?" And I'm like, I don't know. I never it's in the target audience for Indiepocalypse is me, you know. And then I hope
it's like something you would be interested in,
right? And then I hope other people like it, like. But that aside, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. So, Luke, this is what got you into the idea of 3DS development?
I think COVID.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. Like, I was just kind of trapped, and I had applied to their program years ago, I think in 2018 or something. And I don't know, I just started experimenting with it, and it was so cool to just see like 3D objects being rendered on that screen in 3D.
Yeah.
And then I just got addicted to it, and then it became my undoing. It was just terrible to work on. It's horrible, dude. Like, it would crash. My things would crash all the time. I had to go through lot checks multiple times. Like, oh my god. But I did it somehow. I
Yeah.
feel like I was also really inexperienced when I was making those games.
Yeah, and now now the 3DS shop is gone.
Yeah, no, it's gone. But I mean, I ported.
Yeah.
At least 2 of them, so.
And you don't have to
I
worry.
guess I'd recommend.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just would recommend my past self to maybe just. Well, no, it was good. It was good. I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. I think there's like, forever the headaches of it. It is a weird and neat kind of thing of like, oh, this thing can just display in 3D.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Or just like, hey, I'm developing something for like a handheld, just as a purely indie developer. Oh, I'm developing something for a Nintendo handheld, being something, 100%. Being something you can just sort of do. And it gives you a kind of like a unique little thing to it than just putting something on like, oh, I put it on itch. I mean, you can still put it on itch or Steam, but there's this particular charm, I think, to that.
And there's less noise for sure on the 3DS eShop.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that what Indiepocalypse means? It's just like a flood of stuff.
Yeah. There is like the fundamental idea of there's too many indie games now, so my indie game won't succeed is the like the what's the word? The start of the word, the origin of the term Indiepocalypse.
The thesis.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's kind of silly. there can't be such a thing as too many games, There's like, you mentioned books. I don't know if people realize a lot of books out there. Kind of an infinite number of them.
Impossible, literally impossible to read every book, or
Right.
even every book that you want to read.
Right. Like if you tomorrow no longer had to do anything but read, like what percentage of written literature would you get through, before you reach like 100 years old?
Yeah, that's like 3 books. That's like nothing.
Right. I finished 3 books. Okay, that's the end. And like games have a kind of particular like crunch of put everything in a clump, we have to play everything sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Or like, oh yeah, make sure we play like, oh, what are the games that came out this year? What are the highlights? And so many of it is like, well, you can just kind of play whatever you want. There doesn't need.
I'll also say though, I feel like I know so many people who just buy a ton of games and then don't play them. They just sit in their Steam library or something.
Right.
It's weird.
Because like, oh, these are the games I should play. And then they don't play them. Or they, it is the like gaming as consumerism more than engaging with art.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I guess books, it's the same. Like, the people like collect rare books, but don't really look at what the books are, what they're saying.
Right. No, I am very particular in that any book that I buy, I leave it out lying around, and it can't go on my shelf until I actually read it.
Oh, that's bigger than me. My bookshelf is just complete dust and like so much stuff. I'm like, why do I even have this?
No, I'm strict. Anything that I buy, I don't get, because I like to put things on shelves. I like to be very organized, so I don't allow myself to be organized until I get it. So that way, I would otherwise stuff would just pile up forever. Books and movies and whatever just pile up around my room forever.
Yeah.
And then I go, oh, I gotta clean these, so I guess I'm gonna watch them. Slowly forcing myself, and that's part of why I did like I wish more like there was more like physical stuff for indie devs,
Oh yeah, for sure.
because it occupies something like in your brain differently than that giant Steam library does.
Yeah. So I have like a billion folders on my computer. I don't think about any of them really, unless I'm actively working on something in a folder.
Right. Because like, why would you like? It's completely out of sight. You have to like actively go there to find it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the epitome of like out of sight, out of mind. But yeah, there is a lot there. A lot of stuff going on. I'm closing. I had extra stuff open that I'm closing. So I have an important question here.
All right.
That is addressed to you specifically. From an internet, not I was gonna say from an internet lizard, but that is incorrect. From Internet Lizard, it's a proper title. And the question is, but seriously, fellas, would y'all date Harold?
I would not, but I think there's someone out there for him.
Yeah, no, I'm a 3D preference. Prefer myself. 3D as I guess there. Who knows within the context of what that. And like I'm like, oh, things that exist in screens are 2D, of course. No matter their shape within the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you're on the 3DS,
right, unless
you could just reach out and grab it. Yeah.
My monitor doesn't have that little slider on the bottom that increases the 3D on it. That is a wild piece of technology when I think about it. Like,
It's so crazy.
there's like this little slider
The Wii U too.
that just says how 3D something is.
I was supposed to make a Harold's Walk dating sim, but I never did it. I guess I still could. I don't really want to.
Yeah. Oh, we've solved the solution. We've solved the. I've got a breaking update where I solved the problem with Blue Sky links. Blue Sky does not like HTTPS. So I guess if I have to make sure Blue Sky links are HTTPs, I suppose, if they're redirects or something. Who knows? Freaking websites, man. Why do we got to use them? What are they good for? Social media sites, that is. Oh well. But that all aside, so getting into sort of development. Now, this is one of my stock standard questions I usually save for the group segment, but we do not have. Presumably, I am eagle-eyed on my both my email and my Discord friends tab, waiting for this theoretical absentee third guest. But I'm presuming there will not be.
Yeah, he's gone.
I think they're gone to the ether. But no, but prior to 3DS development, how much game development had you done prior? I mean, there is a lot, a decent amount of it.
Yeah. No, I've been learning Unity up to that point, and before that, I actually started. Do you know what Construct is?
Yes.
Yeah, that was like one of my first tools that I really got into. It's super fun. I'd recommend it. I don't know what it's like now, but Construct 2 was so cool.
Yeah, no.
Just making stuff so easily.
Right, like it is actually just like, especially if you're starting new, it's actually just like literal like click boxes together,
Yeah, pretty much. And the scripting's fun. It's just like logic, which I guess is what like C or whatever any language really is now, but I don't know. It just makes sense to someone who doesn't know anything. So
right.
It's really good for me.
Yeah, and it's handy to like, sometimes like I would occasionally like prototype or whatever, like sketch inside a Construct,
Mm-hmm.
And then like make the game in Game Maker. Like forever ago when I was making games, because Construct I could pop something very simple together very quickly, just with like their blocks, and then like, okay, well, how do I conceptualize this then in the actual like GM script that I'm using?
That's smart, honestly. That makes sense.
And just because they're all different tools, their engines are all sorts of different things that anyone can use. It's not really like there's
I'm loving Godot now.
Okay.
It's so cool now. It used to be so bad.
Yeah, there's been like, part of it, everyone hating Unity has helped foster support for Godot.
It's grown so rapidly. It's amazing.
And
I hate going back to work on Automata Long because in Unity I have to open up Unity. It's so gross.
Right. You have to like deal with the wholeness of everything, and just kind of I guess I have to, and then you never know what's going to sort of change about it, like irreversibly.
Yeah, the licensing stuff's bad.
Right. And then, the theoretical dream of something like like Godot is like, if something changed, you don't like it, well, you just use the old version. And you don't have to worry about like,
yeah,
it just goes away forever.
Well, I've also been stranded in Unity 5.6 for a long time because of 3DS stuff. But the PC ports I've upgraded, but yeah,
Yeah, right. Because
the
right,
newer versions are better.
the other problem of there's simply like it's kind of like the unique game problem of like as time marches on, technology kind of stops working. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Often like for really just for I guess to sell you something. Uh, I had
And obsolescence.
yeah, exactly. I got someone recovered an iPad from their job, like an old iPad that was gonna get I don't know thrown away or something. I was like, oh, perfect, because I was gonna use it for like a menu for events so that people could be like, I want to play a horror game, and I would have a whole tagged thing so that they could. Uh, but old iPads can literally run 0 apps. Anything you try to
Yeah,
download.
no, my roommate has one. It sucks.
Yeah, right. It just does not install literally anything. She's like, oh, I just want to put to the point where it's like, I just want to put Google Drive on here so that I can just transfer video files over to it. And it's like, no, I'm not allowed. Somehow, Google Drive is too complicated for this. It just a service that's just uploading and downloading files. But
What's
yeah,
even more shocking is just trying to put music files on any phone now and just listen to your local music. They make it so annoying.
yeah, no, that's why I don't think I'll ever not buy an Android device because I can just plug it into my computer and put them on a folder. I like here's my folders.
Yeah.
Like I tried doing that when I was at that show in Ohio. I was like, oh, okay, let me figure out how to put things on here. So I just naively plugged my iPad into my computer and be like, where's the folder? Why can't I put these video files onto the iPad? I had to get a whole like, uh, you know, whatever Apple devices or something in order for anything to work.
Yeah, I forget what they call it.
But it's a whole ordeal. But fortunately, you have the file. You can just uh, you know take that old Unity file and put it onto itch and Steam. It doesn't have to be some kind of like it wasn't just a proprietary like whatever 3DS script or something.
Yeah. So that's the cool part about it is it's not like I have to retarget it. It's just Unity can export to whatever basically.
Right. In some ways,
I'd have to change a lot of stuff, but it's not as bad as it would have been.
yeah. Like the dream is that it is like, oh, they're just kind of like publishes to everything forever.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, people act like you can just do like Control Shift S, like save as and put it on Steam. It's a little more like there's some stuff you have to think about, but yeah, it's not too bad nowadays.
I mean, what if you could? That's no. I mean,
Dude, what happened?
or at least Control Shift E to export to Steam. I'll take the extra step, to do that. But it is like, and who knows how long things will like, or like, oh, Flash went away, and then a lot of Flash stuff broke, and then all the Unity web stuff broke, and then like who knows when like HTML5 stuff break at some point, and it's just a different graveyard of web-based stuff.
That's a weird thought. Yeah, I don't know. Like if that happened, it'd be so bad.
Right. Like then how many games do you lose, and who knows how many things you lose every single time. It's a true mess of technology. But Luke, I have two important questions for you here. And you've had some time. You've had some time to prepare. What's your favorite type of rock?
Sabbath.
Perfect. Follow up. Toho. Do you have a favorite character within it?
I like the blue girl.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know Toho that well. I just think she's cool.
The ice one. Shirno.
I think it's like a witch with a little blue vest and a white thing.
Yeah, I believe we're thinking the same one.
Yeah.
Common favorite. So for your limited expertise, chose well.
Oh, is that really?
I assume so. Other people say that a lot.
Cool.
You're with
kind of basic, honestly.
Hey, you know what? I was thinking, recently about like what is like the art canon for games, and then and then it's like what is the thing that's like the real art canon because the first art canon is too basic, and I like what is that for games, and I wonder like it feels like there often is like as someone from the perspective of someone who doesn't know any of it, like what would they go to I'm not quite sure if there is one for that, but there'll be plenty of time to think of that after the show, because why is this thing all screwed up? I don't know.
That's a big question.
Oh, I know it changed. I figured it out. Problem solved. I'm just talking about my cover thing. Why it was all screwed up, because I must have accidentally dragged my thing up a little. But but I have important before we start to wrap up here. Did you have anything else? Any other crucial questions, statements, anything as we begin to wrap up the show? Besides promotion, of course.
Besides promotion, all right, I got nothing.
Perfect. So we've got. I do my one final peek at. Nope. I have no pending friend requests. I have no response in this email. So Luke, thank you for joining me here today. Where can people find your work if they're looking to find your work?
You can go to lukewiththefish.com, or you can go to my profile on Blue Sky, or you can go to just straight up buy Harold's Walk on Steam.
Yeah. And your website will probably get people to pretty much all of that, I presume.
Yeah, it'll point you where you need to go.
Yeah.
I really just recommend going there. lukewiththefish.com.
There you go. The handy thing. Just have your own website. Your website itself, as straightforward as you can get. Here's my work. Join an email list. Thank you. End of website.
Yeah.
Don't need anything else but that.
Don't want to waste anyone's time with the whatever else I would put on there.
Right. You don't need to have a giant thing that comes up that says, please subscribe to our thing. Enter your contact information. It's just a damn website that exists as it is. And I will say, I'm moving something over so I can DM something later. But Luke, thanks for joining me. Of course, Indiepocalypse is available at indiepocalypse.com. If you like to submit games, indiepocalypse.com/submit is an eternal eternal URL that just links to a place in which you can submit games. If you do things like buy issue 58 of Indiepocalypse, someone like Luke here will get $5 to $6. That is my payout. You're too fresh to know about the exciting Indiepocalypse $5 to $6 club, where every 8 months you get like a random PayPal message from me and for like $5.87. You go, oh look, I got paid.
Dude, we're rich. We're making so much money on Indiepocalypse. It's actually ridiculous.
I know, like people don't know that I'm nouveau riche, but I'm just rolling in it constantly. There isn't all going to be a pledge drive coming up in January, in which I try to break even because Indiepocalypse's current profitability stands at, let's say, give or take. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Give or take negative $12,713.81. None of that. It is definitely.
Games are so profitable. It's such a good business investment.
It's clearly the best business investment possible. Indiepocalypse, that is, rolling in nonstop money.
And it's all about the love. It's about the love.
Yeah, the way I like to think of it is, I'm funding this with what used to be student loan payments and car payments. And when I made a car payment, they didn't give me some of that money back, which Indiepocalypse does. So it's win-win,
Yeah.
That all said, that's the end of this show, I believe. Yes, I'm calling this the end of this show. Thanks to our guest, Pippin Barr and Luke Vincent, and a fond, hey, be on the next show to our potential other guest that was not here today.
R.I.P.
In rip and preclusion, precluding themselves from today's show. But maybe just forgetting. There's a lot of trust I have in people being like, I'm very busy. When I email you and you go, yes, when I email you 3 weeks away from the show, and I say, hey, you want to be on the show? They go, yes. And I go, okay, sounds good to me. And then they need to remember 3 weeks from now that they got to be on the show. I'm busy. I can't keep track of that for them. You're all adults. Take care of it yourself is my philosophy. And you know what? 99% of the time, it works. Sometimes people forget, and that's just life. But that all said, goodbye, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. Oh, you know what it was? Thanks for listening. That's the thing I was forgetting. I was forgetting to thank people for listening. And there's a bunch of other fucking URLs. Just go to indiepocalypse.com. Any other URL I would mention is on there. It'll get you there. That's it. See ya.